Welcome to Reread. We are on The Unifying Force by James Luceno. I have enjoyed the entire New Jedi Order once again. And boy, James Luceno really knows how to bring everything together and finish off a story. Because it almost feels like reading this story felt like this was the end of the story. Like if they would have, this would have been the last book and they said, bye everyone, it's actually a pretty good ending to a story, to be honest. But first off, it shows Han and 3PO playing, I don't know, on the chessboard. I think it's called Dejeric. But you rarely see him playing that. You rarely hear about it. Usually it's Chewbacca playing it. But Han would play it too. He played it with Chewie all the time, we're told. But they're playing it and we're hearing the game. I don't really understand how the game works. But I wish, and of course James Luceno had to cover a lot. And like this book was like 530 pages. So he covered a whole lot. He didn't have time to go into how to play Dejeric. And I'm sure there's some reference somewhere in Westing Games or something that tells you how to play. But I was really getting interested in this. Like, this is awesome. Just kind of like how the Sabacc games for Brian Daley and Lando Calrissian and L. Neil Smith's trilogies, how those went down. They kind of explained how Sabacc worked. I wish they would. I wish that Luceno would have explained to Dejeric, but it was nice to see them playing. It's nice to see Han and Leia working as a team. Man, they're together. There's lots of funny action. You follow the action really good. Han's twisting the Falcon just right and having the two Noghri bodyguards fire just right. He's like, coming down the money lane, meaning that where both turrets can fire at the same position and stuff. And there's just action as Leia's calling down to him from one turret or running around the Falcon in the next, and Han's taking off here. And you can just feel the action coming through, and Luceno does a really great job with that. There is lots of references, lots of Brian Daley references, because James Luceno was good friends with Brian Daley, so a lot of the planets and places in the old corporate sector is mentioned by Han. A lot of West End game references too. A lot of the Perillian trade route or whatever, that's where the Pentagon Alliance usually hangs out back in the Empire's days, is mentioned, and a few other planets I noticed. There's a lot of connections that James Luceno all ties in. Han is just hilarious in this. There's lots of good scenes. One was when I think he's talking to Pash Kraken, and he said when they capture one of the Vong, he went, "Do you need help? My droid speaks enemy." My droid speaks enemy. If he needs someone to talk to the Vong. There is, like I said, great space battles here. What else did I say? I can't remember who said this now. I didn't write it down, but I think it was Leia or someone else walked in, Pash Kraken or whatever, because they're all in the Falcon, and he comes in the cockpit. Did I hear cussing? And it was a cursing, and it was Han, of course, but Han goes, it must have been 3PO. He was never good with tools, because 3PO is supposed to be fixing something in the back. It's just great. I love that action. I love how Han's written. For some strange reason, James Luceno thought it'd be nice to bring Boba Fett into this. Boba Fett comes in. At first, Han notices someone he notices someone's voice. He said, "You sound familiar. Have we met before?" And the guy's all scarred up. He's like, "Nope, never." And then later on, we find out it's Boba Fett, because Boba Fett comes to the rescue, saves him once from the Vong, and then again in his Slave 1. But they said it's a new fire spray, so it must be the Slave 4. They don't say what they just say it's a fire spray, and Han says it's a newer model. It's a newer model, not his original one. But so I guess he's still in the Slave 4 like he was in Young Jedi Knights. And maybe that was a purposeful connection that James Luceno made. I don't know. But it says Boba Fett hasn't been seen since before the Vong War. James Luceno forgot about the short story from Star Wars Tales, where Han actually encounters Boba Fett at the beginning of the war, where Boba says, "Tell him I'm working for the Vong, because we work for the highest bidder." Well, I guess they kind of erased that. Or, maybe Boba Fett said, "Oh, well, you know what? These are really bad guys. We need to go up against them." And then, now that we know what the prequel trilogy was at this time, for some stupid reason, Boba Fett calls up Han and says, "Hey," as they're flying away, he went, "Just want to know, it was nothing personal against you, Han. I just hate the Jedi." That made no sense. I captured you just so you could be bait for Luke because I really hate Jedi. I don't know. But it was just like, hey, we know what the prequels are like, so we want to form it up. Yeah, he can still hate Han. I don't see what's wrong with that. But Boba Fett didn't need to be in this. I felt like, but if this is truly the final story, which is almost what James Luceno may have been thinking, maybe we should throw Boba Fett in there working for the good guys at the very end. Harar gives his backstory of the Vong, kind of how they left, how they came. They were raised. We find out later on, spoilers, they were on Zamona Sakat. Zamona Sakat is from their home planet, like a seed of their home planet that's been rebuilt. When the Vong were attacked by a mechanical race, which now we know is Vufu Ra's race, thanks to one of the source books, They grew weapons, defeated them, and then got power hungry and went out and conquered the galaxy, but got cut off from the Force, like we've seen with Callista, like we've seen with Ulic Qel-Droma. This happens before, so it's not like they were outside the Force, which would be silly now that you think about it. Because just because they're from another galaxy doesn't mean they're outside the Force, right? No, they've been cut off as an entire race. And so Zemona Sakat, of course, after this is all over, decides to take them in and I guess help them heal as one. But the Vong don't know how to surrender at the end. I'm getting ahead of myself, but they don't know how to surrender. They think that they're going to be executed, and they ask for a warrior's death. They just don't understand how war goes outside of the Vong, mentality, which I love too. There's a big fakes of lots of people dying. Like they faked, for a minute you think Han Solo's dying because he got hit hard with an ampustaff on the neck and he could not make it. And then at the end they fake out Luke because he may be dying. And I think when I was reading this, I thought they would kill off Luke. But as I was reading it again, I remembered I was not scared. I was like, no, he's going to live. If he didn't die right when Mara yells no, and Luke goes lifeless for a minute, if they didn't kill him off then he's alive. And they said, no, he's still breathing. We don't know if he'll make it. And I'm like, yeah, he's going to make it. He's not going to die now. He's not going to die. He would have died in the battlefield, not after, not toward the end. Even though it would have been good. Maybe go off with a bang, go off with one final death. Really the only big death is Admiral Akbar passed away, which I could have sworn was in Destiny's Way. But no, it's in this one where Akbar dies. Anyway, Han and Leia and Kip's back. He's back in the mix again because everyone's back in. Basically, James Luceno lists everyone who's ever been a part of the books or the adventure at this point, which is fine because this is the grand ending, right? And so they're trying to save Zemona Sakat as Alpha Red. The genocide is going toward the planet, but Zemona Sakat easily takes care of that and actually kind of ends the war on its own terms. Luke kills Shimrra. It is a good battle. It is pretty good because Shimra's got him crushed. And then he's been holding on to Anakin's blade. Shimrra has him, I'm going to kill you with your own lightsaber. And it talks about how Shimra's so bigger than Luke. I don't know what the actual size is, but Shimra's a pretty big dude. And so he's got Luke tangled up and he's got the lightsaber, but then it comes out of his hand and into Luke's hand. Now Luke has a lightsaber again. Luke lost his lightsaber in the battle. And then I think has his too, and then uses it to just slice off and just decap slowly. I think if I'm right, they both shoot through the neck, and then he opens it wide like that. So it was ripping off his neck in a little different way. That was awesome. I remember it being awesome at first. I was like, whoa, that was good. But then later on, we find out, and I remember this too, that did I write his name now? Onomi. I didn't write his name down, but Onomi, I think, is what his name was. The little shamed one, former shaper, has turned out to be that he had the Force. He unlocked the Force somehow. He got out of the thing, and he was because Jaina could feel him in the Force at the end. But after Shimra's dead, he captures Jaina for a short time as Jaina was running after him because he has one long fang with some poison in it that it doesn't kill her but makes her, she can't move, immobile. And he kind of gives away his whole plan of who he was. He was the person behind Shimrra. He used the Force to control his mind. And, toward the end, Shimrra started getting away from him because he started getting, Onomi got too busy with other things and everything kind of unraveled and fell apart. And eventually Jason, who is the most powerful Jedi of them all now, basically kills him, melts him to the floor. It's a really good scene. But Onomi says, Vergere always said that you were going to be the one I should fear, that you're the best of them all. But it was funny because Jason knew that when he'd reached that moment, he was like one with the Force, just bright shining and everything. As he took Onomi's poison and just fed it back to him or whatnot. And Jason also knew that he would never be this powerful again, but he would spend the rest of his life trying, which basically puts him on the path, right, to the dark side, I think. So it's kind of wild. And he decides after this whole adventure's over to go have some time to himself. Jaina doesn't want to fly off with Jag just yet, but she loves him, but, we'll keep in touch. Let me grow up a little bit more. We don't get married right now. Cool your jets, Jag, is what she says. But Onomi is dead, which is kind of weird because Luke never once brings up, they're cut off to the Force like Ulic Qel-Droma was, because he knows who Ulic Qel-Droma is. Or Callista, hello? I don't know why he didn't mention that, because that's, used to be his main love. Oh, Mars next to him, so maybe that's why he didn't mention it. But either way, though, man, it's too. I wish there would have been a scene where Luke's like, "Wait, you felt him through the Force?" And he's thinking, he broke the curse. He broke the. He was blocked out, cut off from the Force, yet he found a way out of it. Oh, if I could only question him, or maybe search the Vong books, the Shaper books, to see if there's a way to help Callista and find her and get her. Restore her connection to the Force. But I guess that'd be a little awkward, because Mar would be like, "What you doing?" He'd be, nothing. Just looking at some Vong women." There's a great scene where Nash Choka is basically still leading the army. He refuses to believe that Shimrra's dead. When he sees Shimrra's ship coming, he's like, "See, he's coming to cheer us on, fight on the front line in the final battle." But when Shimrra's ship, it just explodes, because it doesn't have anyone in it, explodes, he realizes, oh, Shimrra's dead. And then he immediately gives up. It's a great scene. We're told that 360 trillion people died in the war. Yikes. Han asked Tycho about retirement, and Tycho jokes that he said, "Well, it's either I retire or winter leaves me." Han kept quiet, but he should have said, "Well, don't worry, because Akbar's dead, so who's she going to leave you for?" I'm sorry, but Winter reported that Akbar died. How did he die? Well, his heart gave out. How his heart gave out? Well, he was getting some exercise. And even though the ending's a little long, James Luceno is just giving everyone a happy ending in a way. Pelion gives the Killik Twilight from, I can't remember the name of the book. But anyway, Tatooine's Ghost. He gives that back to Leia. Leia has been looking at it for, 20 years or whatnot. And he says, "Well, yeah, Thrawn got it from you, but here it is." And so that was really nice that they got that back. And Han's like, "I know a perfect place to hang it." She went, "Where?" It's like, "The Falcon, at our bedroom in the Falcon, our bunks in the Falcon." And then I was wrong. Loie and Rauru at the very end come in and say, "Hey, we're here to fulfill Chewbacca's life debt." And he's like, "Whoa." Han's like, "Well, I'm going on vacation." They say, "Well, we're coming with you." I don't know what happens with this, because I don't know what happens, because I don't think they're in Legacy of the Jedi. I don't know. I'm kind of confused, so I don't know if they're going to explain that or not. I really don't remember. I don't think Loie and Waru are with him, Lumpy, are with him this whole time in the rest of the books. So I don't know how they explain that away, or if it just kind of disappears. Anyway, it does feel like an end to the story, and it feels like a perfect end to the series. James Luceno did a great job. All of these books are great. They're still everyone joked when I gave my top 10, but I have to combine trilogies or series together because it's one complete story. And New Jedi Order is still the pinnacle of the Star Wars Expanded Universe for me. The darkness, the humor, the ups and downs, everything about it was such a joy to read. I loved rereading it again, and I'm just excited to keep reading on, even though it may not be as good. All right, folks, that's it for now. See you next time.